And here we are. Oh my goodness. Is it Wednesday already? Happy Wednesday to every beautiful body out there. For those who are not familiar, my name is Blair G. Hervey. I am the founder and CEO of The Corporate Strategist. I'm usually joined by my colorful co host, my bestie, and my soul friend of 20 plus years, D'Angelo Crane. But he had another engagement this week. So we'll be seeing him next week. But we are welcoming a very, very special guest, which I'm very excited about. I'm crazy about this conversation. So I hope that this is the perfect person to talk all about disabilities and privilege. And I just wanted to welcome Amy Gunter. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me to come and speak on your in your space here, Blair.
Absolutely, no problem. And welcome to everyone out there. And welcome to the Black DEIBA Collective podcast, LinkedIn Live series, Facebook Live series. Before we go into the conversation, I'd love for us to start with just a quick check in. D'Angelo calls it the art of the check in. And it just gives us an opportunity to authentically connect and ask that super easy question. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I feel like today's going smooth as butter so far.
I like that. I like that response. Well, I too am doing well, and I just thought about it. I caught myself. I was surprised you didn't catch me as well. But the first thing that I said was, I'm crazy to have this conversation with this particular person, which is not an appropriate word to say, particularly in regards to what we're talking about today. Excuse me, what we're about to talk about. So, definitely my apologies there. But overall, I'm feeling well. I'm feeling very enlightened. I'm feeling very clear. So for moments like that, I can catch myself, I can correct myself, and we can obviously move on and move up. But I'm feeling great today. Thank you, Amy. But for those who are not familiar with Amy, I'd love to introduce Amy Gunter. She's an expert on autism, ADHD, and learning disabilities. Amy has taught student teachers, school counselors, and school psychologists positive behavior interventions and instructional strategies for children with disabilities. She is also a mental health provider and provides mental health services for children and for adults in crisis or recovering from trauma. So, again, welcome, Amy, and thank you for being here and allowing us to dive deep into this valuable conversation.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with all of you.
No problem. And now, you know what? I have to mention your background is phenomenal. I mean, are you in your classroom right now?
Yes.
It's a nice, colorful background to match your bright lips. So I definitely love that.
Oh,
Well,
thank
before,
you.
yeah, of course. Well, before we get into the conversation, I mean, I can read a bio or I can, do a quick Google just like anyone else can out there. But it would be best to hear it straight from you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you into doing this work.
Okay. So I started out as a teacher's assistant or a teacher's aide in a high school continuation classroom. And so while I was there, I connected with some of the students on a deeper level, meaning that I could see how fierce their struggle was, but they didn't give up. A lot of times this was a second chance for them to be able to work towards earning their high school diplomas and get started on that track towards reaching their career and educational goals. And I noticed that with some of our students, they had to overcome other challenges such as their as disabilities and learning how to navigate within that space, but also being able to advocate for themselves to be able to get the tools and the accommodations that they needed to be successful. I then my first actual teaching position was as an English language development teacher. And so I also again encountered a lot of students with a variety of disabilities, and what I loved was their burning desire to make things happen for themselves. And I just really enjoyed working with them, and that actually inspired me to go and get my teaching credentials in working with students with diverse learning needs.
Interesting. Interesting. I love, we were just talking about immersive experiences yesterday and how it's important to sit in spaces where you feel like it really doesn't have anything to do with you per se. But that's where you really can become much more culturally competent, culturally sensitive. And you may just find that there's a purpose for you being in that space, that a passion may develop as well. Did you find that that was the case, or do you have any other connections to folks with disabilities?
I do. I definitely found that to be the case. And then when I had my first child, we end up discovering that he is on the autism spectrum. And so
Interesting.
not only am I do I advocate for individuals on the spectrum as well as with disabilities, but I, as a professional, but I also do that as a mom and as a community member.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm sure that there are some great tips that you bring in from home into the classroom. I'm sure.
I'm sure there are.
I was just watching a video on TikTok the other day about gentle parenting. Is it the same type of parenting or the same types of techniques that you would leverage, in the classroom as opposed to at home, or is it a little different in the classroom since, that's not your child?
I would say it's a little bit different in the classroom, but a lot of the same strategies do work, like asking students to do something first. So, first, then using the pre-MAC principle. And then also, like with my son, as I was raising him, he understood that he had to do his homework first before he could do his preferred activities. And then also he knew I have always given brain breaks. And so I remember one day in particular, he was really frustrated with this writing assignment. And he told me, I'm going to take a break right now. And that's just it. And he got up and took a break.
You know what? I respect that. I feel like those are strategies that we could use with everyone and definitely us as adults. I mean, I was just texting my friend before the call and I was like, ooh, I've been having like some headaches, been going, and been just running back and forth. And she was like, it's okay to take a break, Blair. I'm like, yeah, I forget that from time to time. So a brain break. And then I love that you said it's called pre-MAC.
Pre-MAC principle. So it's first, then.
Okay.
And so it's not just unique for children, but adults can also use that. And it's like
Hmm.
first something that needs to happen, and then they can have a break or a preferred activity. So it could be, let's say that you have to write out a business proposal. Maybe I'm going to finish this next page, and then I will
Hmm.
take a break.
Oh my goodness. I think that's a good one. And I thought I made up something very unique. So I did this with my son, who is 20 years old, a couple of weeks ago. And I was just like, you know what? You have to focus on doing the purposeful thing before we do the pleasurable thing. I thought I was being creative. But I think that works out well for us too. I know as an adult, sometimes I feel like I have to earn my sleep, which is craziness. And here I go again, which is absurd. And I need to work on that. But I think we're harder on ourselves truly as adults for sure. So when I think about adults, particularly who, and feel free to correct me on any of this verbiage as we go along, because this is a topic that is very new to me. But what I have learned is 1 in 4 adults in America are living with some type of disability, and living with that disability can be physically, emotionally, and of course economically challenging. And then we're talking about African Americans and Black folks; it's about 14%. So we're being, it sounds like, disproportionately affected as it pertains to disabilities as well. Can you talk to me about how this statistic affects Black folks, particularly in the workplace?
Yes. So I would say that, it's another, so because of systemic racism, being Black in America is already very, very challenging and difficult. And I can't say that firsthand, but as an ally and, a parent, I have some empathy, and I wouldn't say quite understanding because I haven't experienced it myself. Um, but I think that just adds another layer.
Hmm.
Having a disability adds another layer, and it's something else that an uh, a Black adult with a disability has to kind of advocate for. and try to leverage their skills and their their communication and just their advocacy to try to just level the playing field, to try to just
Mhm.
get what everybody where everybody else just gets automatically, it's assumed that, hey, if I go to college and I work hard, well, I'm going to get a good job. But
Mhm.
just going to college and working hard isn't it's not a given for everybody. And so it's like,
Absolutely.
well, how do I access those tools and those accommodations so I can get that job and I can be effective in the workplace, and that it's a safe place for an individual.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, oftentimes, as a Black person, a Black professional, we feel like we have to be, not feel, we have to be exceptional in a lot of areas. I just so happen to, look up some exceptional Black folks who have disabilities as well that I didn't know about. Muhammad Ali, I did know about. Muhammad Ali, but Maya Angelou, Halle Berry, I didn't know. Simone Biles. There's folks like Lois Curtis, Missy Elliott, even. So, these particular folks, of course, have figured out a way to either turn their disability into an ability and maybe a privilege for them. Talk to me about, this title. This was your idea. I love how ability was capitalized within disability. How can folks, or how should folks who identify as disabled, go into the workspace and kind of flip that around, and continue to move forward and be exceptional in workspaces or classrooms?
So with a neurodivergent brain, so
Hmm.
it just there are areas of like strength, and I want to say there might be some superpowers too in there.
Yeah.
um but a lot of times, the general public, we just focus on the areas of weakness or we see as a deficit instead of
Hmm.
focusing on the strengths. So it's really looking for what are the, are this individual's strengths, what are they strong at. And it's not very hard to find, not very hard to find.
Yeah.
um Not very hard to find at all. I know in our high school, one of our students with a learning disability, she won a coding contest out of 5,000 applicants with and without disabilities in the United States.
Wow.
So we have gifted artists,
Hmm.
visual artists, we have gifted musicians, we have gifted athletes, we have gifted writers, readers,
Yeah.
thinkers, developers, creators. And so it's really, for the individual and also us as a general public to really embrace their diversity, and help them and
Hmm.
encourage them to find out what is their unique greatness that they have, and help them develop that potential and really encourage it.
Mm, I like that. I love hearing the word gifted. I mean, I'm sure that there's lots of terminology that's turned around or that's thrown around that isn't appropriate, but terms like gifted, and I know in your biography you also put that you're a special education teacher or instructor as well. Are those terms, or special education? I mean, is that still something that is relevant and that we're using today, or are there other terms that we should be using as it pertains to folks with disabilities?
It is sadly, we still are using that term, but there are more. I would say there's more words that are less stigmatizing, like a learning specialist, or
Okay.
maybe a reading specialist, math specialist, accessibility specialist. Those words, resource specialist, those words are less stigmatizing than special education teacher, definitely.
Yes, truly. Okay, good. And I saw a little while ago that Lizzo had the term spaz, I think in a song. Did you hear about that? That was a while ago. No, not maybe not that long ago. And she chose to address it. She said that that wasn't something that she was familiar with as it pertains to, folks that have neurodivergent challenges or live in that space. And she either took it out of the song or redid the song or something like that. So I know the terms are floating to the surface all the time. Whose responsibility would you say is it to stay abreast of those terms, the terminology, and how to have those conversations with folks who identify differently.
It's everyone's responsibility, Blair. It really is everyone's. And really acknowledging that we're all human beings and that we all are in touch with somebody with a disability, whether it's ourselves, a family member, a friend, a fellow temple goer, church worshiper, mosque,
Mm-hmm.
a mosque member, neighbor. We we rub elbows with people with disabilities all of the time. And if we can create more welcoming and inclusive spaces, our society as a whole will be better off. And I believe that it directly impacts our mental health as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
truly. Go
and I
ahead.
would say using person first terminology is something we can all do. So you acknowledge the person first. So instead of saying autistic man, I would
Mm-hmm.
say a man with autism.
Okay.
And I might also, if he's an artist, I can acknowledge that first. This is a artist with neurodiversity, or this is an artist with autism.
Okay, now that's very helpful. So I know that that was something that I had been struggling with over the last year or so. I was like, is it a person who identifies as disabled, or a disabled person, or a person with disabilities? It sounds like that is the proper term.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
okay. I'm working on it. I'm learning throughout this
They're a
conversation. It's
person
great.
first, and they have many identities. Just like
Okay,
all of us, we have many identities.
absolutely. There's
But
tons of
first, we're a
intersection.
human being.
Yes. Tons of intersectionality there for sure. So when I think about corporate spaces, I like what you were starting to say about creating this culture, cultivating a space of inclusivity. How can workspaces and schools and these different environments do a better job of creating a much more inclusive environment?
We can start to provide sensory friendly spaces.
Okay.
So within a classroom, we can have maybe a calm area for students when they kind of are feeling dysregulated, or about starting to feel some anxiety or some signs that they might become dysregulated, that
Hmm.
they can request a brain break or a sensory break and go to a calm area. In the workspace, we can also have maybe a calm room or a calm space that people with and without disabilities can go to when they need to. Something with sensory friendly lighting, so natural lighting or low lighting, um, very maybe a comfortable pillows on the ground, cushions, flexible seating, so that people can go and take a break, a sensory break or a brain break, to regulate themselves so that they can be healthier and also more productive in their workspaces.
Amy, you just described like the perfect area just for, again, I'm like, oh, everything that you're describing, I want. I think it's very helpful to calm us all down. But I mean, I can just think of tons of different tech spaces that create those little nooks. I'm actually, I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky today, but in Portland, the airport, there's a sensory room as well.
Oh.
Yes, I absolutely love that room. So I go in there, it's like dim light, but big window, the comfortable seating that you've mentioned as well. Are there other things that different corporations can do or can think of, whether is it headphones or anything like that to create a space if there's no space that's been carved out?
So they can also have different
Uh-oh.
because
This is what happens when we go live, people.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
They can also have different tools, so different sensory tools for people to use, and also making sure that we have accessible areas. So maybe desks that are accessible for individuals with physical disabilities as well.
Yes.
As And then some people are going to need amplification devices, like you mentioned, and so it's about getting those tools and ordering those tools, making
Mhm.
sure that they're available, maybe even already have one or two on hand in case somebody does need that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any other software that you can think of as well? Because I think about captions. So when these replays go up on YouTube, there's automatically, those captions there. Any other things that we could be doing differently or how we can leverage technology to help folks that experience or that have neurodiversity?
So I know that the mic I'm not I'm not endorsing these companies, but I
That's
know
okay.
Apple and Microsoft both have a lot of accessibility tools within their software.
Yeah.
So an individual could actually dictate their text.
Hmm.
They can also so they can do like they could dictate it. They could also have text read to them. There's
Hmm.
also ways to increase the font size
Hmm.
and also change the background and actually the color of the lettering so that people it's more visible for certain individuals.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I think also making sure that we just know who is in the audience as well, and just ask the questions about what additional things you may need to make sure that your learning experience is heightened, or to make sure that you can truly thrive in this space, that you're ready for the next level in your career. I know for an event that we had in 2020 with a couple of partners of mine, it was called 2020 Ain't Canceled. We love that, but we made sure that we brought in some folks who could sign for individuals who, needed that type of support. So I think it's really important, and that was after a request, though, right? So it's creating a space where people feel comfortable to share. Hey, this is what I need to be able to thrive in a space. Creating a budget for it as well, because you may ask folks, and you're like, "Ooh, the spending." Uh-oh, that's all right. Having those dollars available and creating some type of spending for that, and then of course being ready to hire folks who identify and can support those particular needs. But also, again, going back to our Black employees, looking for folks that do look different. So when we're talking about looking for folks or recruiting folks with this, or people with disabilities, what's a good way for folks to do that? Where can recruiters go? Where can corporations go?
So there's a lot of well, one thing they can do is at the colleges or universities that they're interested in. So they could be HBCUs,
Mhm,
HSIs, Hispanic Serving Institutes, what have you. We want a variety. um,
mhm.
that's how we get a diverse workplace is we recruit from diverse
Spaces,
institutions.
yeah.
So the, there's actually any institution that receives federal funds, so any governmental funds, even if it's a private school, if any of their students have any grants or get student loans from the government, they actually have to provide a center for students with disabilities. And
Oh,
so
okay.
that would be a great place to kind of recruit from, what would be like the center on campus for students with disabilities, and
Mhm.
asking them to email individuals. Also, there's also various organizations that so it could be maybe the Autism Speaks org. There's several different just like local organizations that really hone into supporting the individuals and families with disabilities
I
ability.
love I love that. Amy, that is some great information. I hope that, the folks that are watching or that decide to watch the replay definitely take some action, because these are some things that I hadn't heard before for sure, particularly as it pertains to recruiting folks with disabilities as well. We need to make sure that we're thinking about what our folks need. So how do we cultivate that space? How do we make sure that the space is inclusive? And then how do we put some budget aside to make sure that we give them what they need? And then we're recruiting folks to support their needs as well, that don't look like everyone else. So those are some great nuggets, Amy. I really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, was there anything else that you care to share about the topic before I ask you some fun questions?
um I would just, I guess I want to encourage everyone to be accepting and inclusive and not a hater, um,
That's a good
I remember my first experience when I first became a specialist. Um, I was brand new right out of a credential.
one. I like that sentence though. Don't be a hater. If you didn't catch anything else from Amy at the end of the day, don't be a hater. That's a good one. It looks like your students are coming back. Is
Oh,
that right?
and I just wanted to wrap it. Sorry,
Yeah,
wrap up
go
this.
ahead.
So I remember I was advocating for a student that was experiencing a lot of different turmoil in their life, and they also had a disability.
Hmm.
And I remember I was advocating with the math teacher. And then after I left her space, I went and was consulting with other teachers and supporting students in their classes. And I remember when I got back, I had a huge poster she had created for me saying, "Don't make excuses."
Hmm.
And
Mm.
so that really like left me with something. There's not going to be people always that are going to be inclusive or welcoming. So, and we can't change that. We still have to do what we do. um
Yeah.
but at the same time, if we can all just remember, don't be a hater. If you don't understand, you don't get it, and that's fine. But don't hate on other people or throw shade on what they're trying to do.
Oh, that's good, Amy. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, I see you've muted again. Are you okay for a couple of fun questions, or do you have to get back to the
Oh,
kids?
yes, I'm okay for a couple of fun questions.
Okay. So rapid fire, really quickly. What is your favorite food?
Eggplant parmigiana. I'm a
Ooh,
vegetarian.
that that sounds delicious. Um, what is the best vegetable? Your favorite vegetable?
I would say eggplant again.
The eggplant. I'm really picky about my eggplant. If it's overcooked, you know how it can get a little slimy like okra, but it's pretty tasty. I love it. Okay. What's one thing that's on your travel bucket list
Oh my goodness.
or one place?
Jamaica
Really? You haven't been, where are you located currently?
in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. You haven't been to Jamaica yet.
No,
Okay.
not yet. I want to go. I want to go feel some of those Caribbean vibes.
That's how you know you really want to be there when you start doing the shoulder shimmy.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, last question. What is your favorite movie?
Oh. Mm, mm. That one, I don't know. There's so many good ones.
See, I'm a moviegoer from way back. I love, even during the pandemic, I had my mask on. I'd be separate from everyone. I had my little kids pack with my popcorn and my Coke Zero. I love going to the movies. So you can get back to us on that one. Nonetheless, thank you for having so much fun with us, answering these questions, letting me stumble over my words, correcting me, and helping us all figure out, just the best way to be much more inclusive and thinking about diversity as a whole, and not just limiting ourselves. We really appreciate you, Amy. The shout out for today is for Chantel George. She's the CEO and founder of Sisters in Sales, which is one of the largest growing organizations specifically for Black women who are in sales. Most recently, one of the largest financial institutions, Goldman Sachs, reviewed their story and accepted them and her into the most competitive business cohort. It's called, I believe, Black Women in Business. So I just wanted to shout her out, shout out to every woman out there that's making a difference in business and education, at home, with your families. We appreciate each and every one of you. We appreciate each and every one of you all for showing up every day, watching this replay, and really tuning into the Black Diva Collective. We hope to see you tomorrow as well at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon and a great day. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you for all that you do.
No problem. Bye now.